When I saw her step out of that car, white lace brushing her knees, a shy smile trembling on her lips, I thought my heart had stopped. She was supposed to be just a guest, my son's friend from college. But the way he looked at her, the way she held his hand as if it already belonged to her, I knew something was wrong. I should start from the beginning, before my life tilted sideways. My name is Elena. I'm 54, a retired nurse who's lived her whole life in a small coastal town where the sea smells like salt and diesel, and the neighbors know your business before you do. My husband passed 10 years ago, leaving me and our only son, Noah, to patch life together. Noah's always been my pride, a quiet boy, gentle, thoughtful, with my husband's eyes and his kindness. After college, he came back home to save money while job hunting. I thought we were doing fine, just the two of us, until that summer when Leah reappeared. Leah was my best friend's daughter. Her mother, Cynthia, and I grew up like sisters. We shared secrets, dresses, even heartbreaks. When Leah was born, I was in the delivery room holding Cynthia's hand. For years, Leah was the child who ran through my kitchen, eating cookies before dinner and calling me Auntie Elena. But time changed us. Cynthia remarried, moved away, and Leah went to study abroad. We lost touch except for the occasional social media update, smiling pictures, fancy dinners, a life that looked larger than ours. Then one afternoon Noah came home, saying, "Mom, a friend from college is visiting town. Can she stay for a few days?" "Of course," I said without thinking. I was always telling him to bring friends around, fill the house with laughter again. When the doorbell rang that evening, I opened it to find Leah standing there, suitcase in hand, sunlight caught in her hair. "Elena," she gasped, and I felt years collapse between us. "Leah, oh, my goodness." I hugged her, laughing. "Look at you. You're all grown up." Noah stood beside her, smiling awkwardly. "So you two already know each other," he said. "Know each other?" I chuckled. "I used to babysit this one. Watch a small world." For the first few days it felt lovely, nostalgic, almost healing. Leah helped me in the kitchen, brought flowers from the market, asked about my late husband with a softness that touched me. Noah seemed happy too, though quieter than usual, sometimes glancing at her when he thought I wasn't looking. I assumed it was a harmless crush. One evening, after dinner, I found them on the porch, whispering. When I stepped out with tea, they jumped apart, pretending to study the stars. I smiled, deciding to leave them be. Youth has its own rhythm, and I didn't want to embarrass them. Still, little things began to shift. Leah extended her stay, just another week, then another. She started doing Noah's laundry, organizing his desk, cooking his favorite meals as if she'd memorized his habits. I teased him, "You've got yourself a little housekeeper." He only smiled, eyes darting away. "Det fast real kluikemi wanhaini morning." I was sorting mail when I noticed an envelope addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Noah Benson. My fingers froze. It was from a bank, a joint account confirmation. I started at each, confused, a prickling craving up my neck. At breakfast I asked lightly, "Noah, did you open a joint account with someone?" He nearly choked on his coffee. "Why? Oh, just curious. Got some mail by mistake." He reached for it too quickly, muttering something about a mix-up. Leah appeared behind him, setting down a plate of eggs, her cheeks pale. The air felt thick with unspoken words. That afternoon, while they went out shopping, I sat by the window watching rain blur the garden and tried to calm the unease rising inside me. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe the bank simply printed it wrong. But a mother knows when something doesn't fit. Days passed. Leah's phone calls were secretive, hushed behind closed doors. Noah began avoiding family gatherings, saying he was busy. Then one Sunday I ran into Cynthia at the grocery store, my old friend, her smile bright and forced. We exchanged pleasantries, and when I mentioned Leah was visiting, her eyes flickered. "She's visiting you?" she asked slowly. I thought she was working up north with her husband. Her husband. I blinked. Husband. Cynthia's face drained of color. "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have," she stammered, grabbed her bag, and left before I could ask more. That night I lay awake listening to the house creak, my thoughts spiraling. If Leah was married, why hide it? And why was she living under my roof with my son? The next morning, I watched them leave together, Noah carrying her suitcase to the car. They looked too close. I caught the briefest glimpse of her hand sliding into his. Something in me broke a little. I decided not to confront them right away. I needed to know the truth first, not suspicions. I went into Noah's room to collect laundry, pretending to tidy. In his drawer, beneath folded shirts, I found a velvet box, inside, 2 gold rings. My breath hitched. One ring was engraved inside, L and N, forever. I sat on his bed, the box trembling in my hand, the sound of the ticking clock suddenly deafening. My son had married someone. But not just anyone, my best friend's daughter. The betrayal hit in slow waves. Memories of Cynthia and me laughing in our youth, of holding Leah as a baby, crashed into the present like cruel echoes. Why would they hide it? When they returned that evening, I waited in the living room, the ring box on the table. "Noah," I said quietly. "Sit down." He froze. Leah stood behind him, eyes darting from me to the box. "Where did you find that?" he whispered. "In your drawer," I replied. "E forte reise de totel me de trufe." Leah reached for his arm. "Elena, please. Ariu Mahid?" I asked. My voice surprised me, steady, calm, but carrying years of hurt. They exchanged a glance, then Noah nodded, barely audible. "Yes, Mom. We got married last month." For a moment, silence filled the room, thick as fog. Then I whispered, "And you weren't planning to tell me?" Leah's eyes filled with tears. "We wanted to, but things were complicated. My mom. Your mom. Il alguém biterli. Do you mean my best friend, the one who didn't even know her daughter was married?" Noah looked down. "We were afraid everyone would judge us. The age difference, the history. I sotodslovli. Judge you, or hold you accountable for lying." He opened his mouth, but I couldn't hear anymore. "I val que tomai ruim de locket de dor behind me." For hours I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the rain streaking down the window, feeling as though I'd lost both a son and a friend in the same heartbeat. When dawn came, I hadn't slept. The house was quiet. They were gone. On the kitchen table lay a note in Noah's handwriting. *, we need time. Please don't hate esse asterisco. I folded it neatly, placed it in the drawer with unpaid bills, and made myself tea. The steam rose, smelling faintly of jasmine. I took a slow sip, tears slipping down my cheeks. That was the morning everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family began to unravel. The morning after they left, the house felt unnaturally silent. The hum of the refrigerator seemed louder, the clock more accusing. I kept catching myself glancing toward Noah's empty chair at the kitchen table, expecting to hear his laugh, the scrape of his fork against the plate. But all that was left was quiet, and a hollow ache I couldn't name. For the first few days, I moved like a ghost. I watered the plants, folded laundry that wasn't there, cooked meals for one, and left them untouched. My sister Ruth called to ask if everything was all right, and I lied through my teeth. "Just tired, that's all," I said, forcing a laugh. But at night, my mind replayed the moment Noah had said, "Yes, Mom. We got married." His words echoed like a foreign song. Married. And to Leah, of all people. I couldn't shake the image of her standing behind him, her face full of guilt and fear, and something else. Possession. A week later, Cynthia called. "Elena," she began, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you about Leah." "I figured you might," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "Your daughter's been living with me for months." "I know." She told me everything. Well, almost everything. Cynthia sighed. She said she fell in love with Noah at school, but they kept it quiet because she didn't know how I, or you, would react. I suppose they thought we'd think it was strange, given our history. Strange. I repeated, bitterness rising. "Cynthia, I changed that girl's diapers. I watched her grow up beside my son like cousins. They hid a marriage from us, not a school dance." "I understand how you feel," she said gently. "But maybe they just wanted peace. You know how stubborn young love can be." I wanted to shout that love built on secrecy never ends in peace, but instead, I took a deep breath. Where are they now? Staying at my place. Leah wanted to reach out, but I told her to give you space. The irony cut deep. Cynthia, once my confidant, now mediating between our children like a stranger. Tell her I'll call when I'm ready, I said and hung up. But I wasn't ready. Not even close. Over the next few weeks, I tried to resume normal life. I volunteered at the clinic, visited church, baked bread I couldn't finish. People asked about Noah, and I said he'd found work out of town. Each lie weighed heavier than the last. Then one Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. It was Noah, alone. He looked thinner, his hair unkempt, dark circles under his eyes. He carried a small box, the same one that had started it all. Mom, he said softly, can I come in? I nodded, stepping aside. He sat at the table, staring at his hands. Leah's pregnant, he said. The words sank slowly, like stones dropped in deep water. Pregnant. He nodded. She's 2 months along. I sat down opposite him, the room spinning slightly. So now you tell me? I wanted to before, he said. But every time I tried, you looked so proud of me. I didn't want to ruin that. I laughed bitterly. You didn't ruin it, Noah. You just buried it under lies. He flinched. We were scared. You and Aunt Cynthia had this whole history. She said you might think it was inappropriate. She said that? I leaned forward. And what did you think? I thought love was enough, he said quietly. Love is never enough if it starts in deceit, I whispered. He didn't argue. Just sat there, eyes glistening. For the first time since his father's death, I saw him not as my little boy but as a man, flawed, frightened, trying to navigate the wreckage he'd created. After a long silence, he said, She wants you to be part of it, Mom. The baby's life. Please, don't shut us out. I wanted to say yes, to reach out and hold him, but something inside me hardened. I need time, I said. You both made choices without me. Now I have to live with them. He nodded, tears welling. I understand. He stood, leaving the box on the table. There's something inside for you. After he left, I opened it. Inside was an ultrasound photo and a handwritten note from Leah. Dear Auntie Elena. No, Mom, if you'll let me call you that. I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect forgiveness soon. But please know I never meant to betray you. I fell in love with Noah before I realized how tangled our pasts were. I just want our baby to grow up knowing family, not shame. I closed the box, my throat tightening. That night I dreamt of my late husband, his hand warm over mine, his voice soft. Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, Elena. It makes space for something else to grow. When I woke, the sun had barely risen. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if forgiveness was really possible, or just another way of pretending. In the days that followed, word spread fast in our small town. Did you hear? Elena's son married her best friend's daughter, someone whispered at the market. I felt their eyes on me everywhere, the pitying smiles, the curiosity masked as kindness. I held my head high, pretending not to care, but each murmur cut deeper. Cynthia called again, asking if we could meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat at the same cafe where we'd once planned birthday parties for our kids. She looked older, lines etching her face, her hands trembling slightly as she stirred her coffee. Elena, I never imagined things would turn out like this, she began. They're both young, impulsive. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. A blessing, I repeated, my voice sharp. My son hides a marriage, your daughter lies to us both, and now there's a baby on the way, and you call it a blessing? Her eyes filled with tears. Please, don't hate her. Or me. We can't undo what's done. I sighed, the fight draining from me. I don't hate anyone, Cynthia. I'm just tired. I thought we shared a bond no one could touch. Now I'm not sure we ever really knew each other. We parted quietly, without hugs this time. That night, I went through old photo albums. There was one of Leah and Noah at age 6, sitting side by side with ice cream smeared on their faces. My husband had written on the back in his slanted handwriting, Someday they'll thank us for raising them together. I traced the letters with my finger, tears blurring my vision. Maybe, in some twisted way, his words had come true, but not in the way any of us imagined. Months passed. Spring came, painting the town in soft colors, but inside me there was only gray. I hadn't seen Noah or Leah since that cafe meeting. Every few weeks I received small updates, an ultrasound picture in the mail, a text from Noah saying, "Mom, we're okay," and once, a message from Cynthia telling me she hoped I'd join the baby shower. I couldn't bring myself to go. Not yet. Instead, I threw myself into work at the clinic. People whispered less now. New gossip had replaced me. Still, there were moments when I caught my reflection in a window or mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Eyes dimmed, posture heavy, carrying the weight of what should have been joy but felt like mourning. One Friday evening, just as the sun dipped behind the roofs, I came home to find a small box sitting on my porch. Inside was a key and a note in Noah's handwriting. Asterisk, come by tomorrow morning. We have something to show you. Asterisk. I didn't sleep that night. Part of me was afraid of seeing Leah's round belly, of pretending to smile, of forgiving too soon and betraying my own pain. But another part longed to see my son, to hear his voice in person again. The next morning, I drove to Cynthia's house. I hadn't been there in years. The garden looked the same, roses, hydrangeas, a small stone path, but the air felt heavier, as if it remembered our laughter and judged what had become of it. Noah opened the door before I could knock. "Mom," he said, eyes hopeful. "You came." I nodded, stepping inside. The smell of cinnamon and baby powder filled the air. Leah sat on the couch, her belly full and round beneath a loose dress. She smiled nervously. "Hi, ouch Elena," she said softly. I almost corrected her. Asterisk, it's just Elena now, asterisk. But the words died on my tongue. Instead, I sat down, folding my hands in my lap. "We wanted to tell you in person," Noah said, "that we're moving. I got a job offer in the city." I forced a smile. "That's wonderful, Noah." He hesitated. "We're leaving next week. And before we go, we wanted you to bless the baby." "Bless," I repeated. Leah nodded eagerly. "My mom said you have such a gentle spirit. We thought maybe you could say a prayer, or just something for the baby." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Blessing their child felt like sealing the reality of it, accepting everything that had hurt me. I looked at Leah, her hands resting protectively on her belly, her eyes bright with hope. She looked so young, so much like her mother once had. "Of course," I said quietly. "I'll do it." Noah exhaled in relief, and I felt something loosen inside me. Maybe this was the start of healing. But healing, as I would learn, often comes only after another wound. The next day, Cynthia invited me to lunch at her house. Just us, no children. I almost declined, but curiosity won. When I arrived, she seemed distracted, wringing her hands. "Elena," she began after we sat, "I need to tell you something before they move. I can't keep it anymore." My stomach tightened. "What is it?" "It's about their marriage," she said. "The way it happened." I frowned. "They said they got married at the courthouse, right?" She nodded. "Yes, but it wasn't last month. It was over a year ago. They got married while they were still in school. Leah hid it from me too. I only found out recently when I helped her pack. There were documents, photos. They'd been keeping it a secret for a long time." A cold wave ran through me. "A year? You mean they were married the whole time she lived under my roof?" Cynthia's eyes glistened. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I didn't know. If I had..." I didn't let her finish. The room spun around me, and I stood abruptly. "I need to go." I forced a smile. "That's wonderful, Noah." He hesitated. "We're leaving next week. And before we go, we wanted you to bless the baby." "Bless," I repeated. Leah nodded eagerly. "My mom said you have such a gentle spirit. We thought maybe you could say a prayer, or just something for the baby." For a moment I couldn't breathe. Blessing their child felt like sealing the reality of it, accepting everything that had hurt me. I looked at Leah, her hands resting protectively on her belly, her eyes bright with hope. She looked so young, so much like her mother once had. Of course, I said quietly. I'll do it. Noah exhaled in relief, and I felt something loosen inside me. Maybe this was the start of healing. But healing, as I would learn, often comes only after another wound. The next day, Cynthia invited me to lunch at her house. Just us, no children. I almost declined, but curiosity won. When I arrived, she seemed distracted, wringing her hands. Elena, she began after we sat, I need to tell you something before they move. I can't keep it anymore. My stomach tightened. What is it? It's about their marriage, she said. The way it happened. I frowned. They said they got married at the courthouse, right? She nodded. Yes, but it wasn't last month. It was over a year ago. They got married while they were still in school. Leah hid it from me too. I only found out recently when I helped her pack. There were documents, photos. They'd been keeping it a secret for a long time. A cold wave ran through me. A year? You mean they were married the whole time she lived under my roof? Cynthia's eyes glistened. I'm so sorry, Elena. I didn't know. If I had. I didn't let her finish. The room spun around me, and I stood abruptly. I need to go. Maybe I wouldn't have, I said, but at least I would have respected the truth. Noah took her hand. We were wrong. Both of us. We didn't mean to hurt you. I felt my voice soften despite myself. Intentions don't erase pain, Noah. Every lie you told chipped away at the boy I thought I raised. He bowed his head. The room filled with quiet sobs and the steady rhythm of rain. Finally, I walked over to Leah, placed my hand gently on her belly, and whispered, This child didn't ask for any of this. Whatever happens between us adults, he deserves peace. Leah nodded, tears streaming. Thank you. I looked up at both of them. I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean things go back to how they were. It just means I'm done bleeding from it. The air felt still after that, as though the house itself exhaled. When I left, Cynthia followed me to the porch. You did the right thing, she said softly. I turned to her. Did I? Or did I just make room for more pain? She didn't answer. We stood there, listening to the rain, two women bound by the strange, tangled love of our children. That night, alone in my kitchen, I made a pot of soup for one. As I stirred, I thought of the baby, my grandchild, growing quietly in Leah's womb. A life born from deception but still innocent. I whispered to the empty room, maybe you'll be the one who teaches us all to forgive. 2 months passed after that rainy morning. Noah and Leah moved to the city like they'd planned, and silence settled over my house like a new kind of furniture, something I didn't choose but had to live with. The first few weeks, I waited for calls that didn't come. I still cooked too much food, still set 2 plates on the table before remembering. Cynthia and I spoke less too. Our friendship had become cautious, full of small talk and missing pieces. Still, there was an unspoken understanding between us. We were both mothers caught between love and betrayal, between wanting to protect and wanting to punish. One Saturday afternoon, the phone rang. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Patel. Elena, she said, her voice low with concern. I saw something online, about Noah. My chest tightened. What about him? It's on social media. Leah's baby shower photos. People are talking. I opened my laptop, my hands trembling. There it was, a series of bright, smiling photos posted by Leah's cousin. Balloons, pink ribbons, a cake that read Welcome Baby Grace. But it wasn't the photos that caught my attention. It was the comments. Isn't that her husband's mom's best friend? So the baby's grandma used to be her mother's friend? Lord have mercy. Messy, messy family ties. The words burned. Public gossip. My family's private wounds laid bare like a cheap soap opera. I closed the laptop, but it was too late. The damage was done. That evening, Cynthia called. Elena, I'm so sorry. I told Leah not to post anything. It wasn't even her. It was her cousin. People will talk, I said quietly. They always do. I'll talk to her, Cynthia offered. We'll get the post taken down. But the post was already everywhere. shared, screenshotted, dissected. By Monday, even people at my clinic whispered about it. I caught a young nurse saying, "That's the one whose son married her friend's daughter," before pretending she was talking about someone else. That night, I called Noah. "Do you realize what is happening?" He sighed, his voice tired. "Mom, it's just gossip. People always have something to say." "This isn't gossip," I snapped. "This is humiliation." "For all of us." Leah's voice chimed in faintly from the background. "We didn't mean for this to happen." "E closed my eyes. Intentions don't stop tongues from vagin, Leia." After we hung up, I sat alone on the porch, the summer night thick with the hum of crickets. I thought about pride, how it can wound as deeply as betrayal. And I wondered if this was my punishment for holding on to it too tightly. A week later, I was at the grocery store when I heard someone call my name. It was Pastor James's wife, Ruth. "Elena, I've been meaning to ask, is it true? About Noah and Leah?" "E forse da politismaio." "Yes. They're married. Expecting their first child soon." She blinked, taken aback by my calm tone. "Well, congratulations, I suppose. That must have been surprising." "Life has a way of surprising us all," I said softly. I walked away before she could say more, my spine straight, my hands shaking around the cart handle. That night, I made a decision. If the world wanted to talk, let them hear the truth from me. The next Sunday, I attended church for the first time in months. As stepped inside, vespers rippled through the congregation. I felt every gaze on me, but I held my head high and took a seat near the front. When the service ended, Pastor James invited anyone with a testimony or prayer request to come forward. My heart pounded, but my legs carried me before I could think twice. Standing there, I said, "I want to thank God for giving me the strength to forgive what I thought was unforgivable." My Saint Maria, the daughter of someone, dear to me. It wasn't easy, and mistakes were made. But there's a baby on the way, an innocent child who deserves peace, not shame. So if anyone here has words to say about my family, say them to God first. He's the only one who knows the whole story. The church fell silent. Then slowly, a few people began to clap. Not out of gossipy, but out of something softer, understanding, maybe. Afterward, Ruth came up to me, eyes moist. "Elena, that was brave." I smiled faintly. "It wasn't bravery, Ruth. It was exhaustion. I'm tired of carrying secrets that don't belong to me." That afternoon, Cynthia showed up at my door. "I heard what you said at church," she said. "I wish she had your courage." "You have your own kind," I replied. "I raised de Leia. You've suffered too." We sat at my kitchen table like we used to, the silence between us gentler now. She looked down at her hands. "Leia's dulsum. She antes you there. At the hospital." I hesitated. "Does she or do you?" "She does," Cynthia whispered. "She says she can't face that moment without you." For a long time, I said nothing. Then I nodded. "Tell Harayu come." When Leah went into labor, it was a quiet Friday night. The city hospital was bright, sterile, full of anxious faces and beeping machines. When I arrived, Noah met me at the door, his eyes red. "She's been in labor for hours," he said. "She keeps asking for you." Inside the room, Leah lay pale and exhausted, her hair matted with sweat. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. Elena, she whispered, voice trembling. "I'm sorry for everything." I took her hand. "Don't speak of the past right now. Just breathe. You're doing beautifully." Minutes later, the room filled with the sound of a baby's cry, soft, then strong, like life itself announcing its arrival. Noah cut the cord with shaking hands, and when the nurse placed the baby in Leah's arms, I saw something I hadn't expected. Peace. Chini, perfect peace. Leah looked up at me. "Would you like to hold her?" I hesitated, then reached out. The baby's warmth filled my arms. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, dark and curious. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "Hello, Gracie." In that moment, something inside me finally let go. The anger, the pride, the hurt. None of it mattered. All that remained was love, fragile and real. Noah looked at me, his voice breaking. "Mom, thank you for coming." I smiled through tears. Of course I came. Where else would I be? The weeks after Grace's birth felt like waking up from a long storm. I visited often, bringing soup, diapers, and the quiet kind of help that mothers understand without words. Leah was gentle with the baby, always humming soft lullabies under her breath, the same ones her mother used to sing when we were young. One afternoon, I found her sitting by the window, Grace asleep on her chest. Sunlight painted her face gold. "I never thought you'd forgive me," she said softly. "I didn't," I admitted. "Not at first. But when I saw Grace, I realized forgiveness isn't something we decide all at once. It's something that grows, like this child. Quietly, slowly, but steady." She nodded, her eyes brimming. "I was so scared, Auntie. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just fell in love. And when Noah proposed, I didn't know how to tell you or Mama. I was afraid of losing everything." I looked at her for a long moment. "Leah, you didn't lose everything. You changed it. And sometimes, change looks a lot like loss at first." We sat in silence, the baby's tiny breaths filling the room. That same evening, Cynthia came over. I hadn't seen her since the birth. When she walked in, she held a small gift bag, inside, a knitted pink blanket. "I made this for Grace," she said, her voice trembling. Leah's eyes widened. "Mom, you came." "I couldn't stay away forever," Cynthia whispered. "She's my granddaughter." Watching them embrace was like watching time heal in real time. Two hearts learning to forgive not just each other, but themselves. We spent that evening together, 3 generations of women bound by blood, by friendship, by mistakes that had somehow led to this moment of grace, fittingly named. Months passed, and life settled into a gentler rhythm. I returned to my work at the clinic, and every Friday evening, I'd drive to the city to see Grace. She'd grown chubby and curious, reaching for my earrings and babbling nonsense that somehow sounded like music. One evening, as I was leaving, Noah stopped me by the door. "Mom," he said, hesitating, "Leah and we're planning a small family gathering next month. We want to renew our vows. Properly this time, with everyone's blessing." My throat tightened. "That's beautiful, Noah. Your father would have been proud." He smiled, eyes glistening. "You'll come." "Of course," I said. "I wouldn't miss it." The day of the ceremony arrived, a small backyard setup, simple but heartfelt. White chairs, soft music, and a string of fairy lights twinkling in the late afternoon sun. Leah wore a pale blue dress this time, her hair loose, her smile genuine. Noah looked at her like a man who'd learned the true weight of love, not the romance of it, but the responsibility. When the officiant asked if anyone had words to share, I surprised myself by standing. "I was angry once," I began, my voice steady. "Angry that my best friend's daughter married my son in secret. Angry that something so beautiful began with so much deceit. But I've learned that love doesn't always ask for permission. It simply grows where it's planted. And if we're wise, we don't pull it out, we water it." Leah wiped her eyes. Cynthia reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. After the ceremony, while everyone was eating, Cynthia and I stood off to the side, watching Grace toddle between Noah's legs. "She looks just like Leah did at that age," Cynthia said with a wistful smile. "She has Noah's stubborn chin," I replied, and we both laughed. Cynthia sighed. "Do you ever think about the past? About us?" "All the time," I admitted. "But I think about the future more. That's progress." She nodded, her eyes glimmering. "Thank you, Elena, for not shutting us out forever." I turned to her. "You're my sister in all but name, Cynthia. We just got lost for a while. But Grace, she's the bridge we didn't know we needed." For the first time in years, it felt like peace wasn't just something we talked about, it was something we were living. A year later, on Grace's first birthday, I found myself hosting the party at my house. Laughter filled the kitchen. Leah decorated cupcakes with Cynthia, while Noah grilled in the backyard. Children ran through the yard chasing bubbles. At one point, Leah came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. "Auntie," she said softly, Thank you for giving me a second chance. I turned, brushing her cheek affectionately. You didn't need a second chance, Leah. You just needed time to grow into the woman you were meant to be. That night, after everyone left and the house fell quiet, I sat on the porch again, the same porch where I'd once wept over betrayal. Only now, the air felt lighter. I could hear the crickets again, and they sounded like forgiveness. I thought about all the ways life had tested me: friendship, motherhood, pride. And I realized something simple. Sometimes, the people who break your heart aren't your enemies. They're your teachers. Leah taught me humility. Cynthia taught me endurance. Noah taught me grace, quite literally. And Grace herself, she taught me that love doesn't always begin the way we expect, but it can still end in peace.